Rajim. I seek refuge with Allah against Satan, the one far away from Allah's mercy. All praise is due to Allah, and we praise Him, and we beseech His help, and we ask His protection, and we betake Allah's refuge from the evils of our animal life and from the bad results of our actions. Whom Allah guides, there's none to misguide him. And whom Allah pleases to lead astray, there is none to guide him. And I bear witness that there is none to be worshipped except Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and his apostle. We petition Allah to send down his most excellent blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad and his family. O you who believe, be careful of your duty to Allah with the care which is due to him, and die not unless you are Muslims. O you who believe, be careful of your duty to your Lord, who created you from a single being and created his mate out of the same kind of spread from these two. Many men and women spread. And be careful of your duty to Allah. I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
We want to make a special announcement after the Khutbah. And we'll be doing some consultation with the community. We want to say a few words this afternoon on the topic, the Sunnah of Allah. The Sunnah of Allah. The key to the Sunnah of Allah is the testing of the human being. The testing of the human being. In the Quran, this is the Quran Al-Baqarah, verses 153 through 155. It says, be sure that we shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss in goods, lives, and the fruits of your toil. But give glad tidings unto those who are patient in adversity, who when calamity befalls them, they say, verily, unto Allah do we belong, and verily unto him we shall return. It is they upon whom their sustainers' blessings and grace are bestowed. And it is they who are on the right path. I want you to see that what I just read from the Quran in the English, I want you to see that there is an attitude that is being exposed here. It is they upon whom they say, from Allah we come, and to Allah we shall return. So, I thought this passage would be appropriate for today's khutbah, because if we become too comfortable in this life, if we want to stay here and we don't use but I really need to say, if we don't use what Allah has given us through the Quran And through Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we will be locked into this life. And we should not want to be locked into this life. We want to be looking for the hereafter. Allah uses it as a test. He uses this life as a test for us. Everything we see is a test. Allah can test the whole world at the same time. We will be tested for our whole life, from birth all the way to death. Some of us are a test for others. We want to be versed in how Allah tests the human being through His Sunnah. Let's look back at how Allah tests the Israel community. In the Quran, He says, and remember the time when we saved you from Pharaoh's people. Now He's talking to a certain group. Think about who He's talking to. And remember the time when we saved you from Pharaoh's people, who afflicted you with cruel suffering, slaughtering your sons and sparing your women, which was an awesome trial from your sustainer. You see? So whatever we encounter in this life, it can be a group of people. It can be the opposite sex. It can be someone who's not from your hometown. It can be whatever you can imagine. Allah uses those things to test us. But the beautiful thing is, He gives us what we need to pass the test. Racism, sexism, all the isms we can imagine. I go back to the Baqarah, 153 through 155. It is they upon whom their sustainers' blessings and grace are bestowed. And it is they who are on the right path. Some people will never get over the test that Allah administers to them. I don't like them because they don't look like me. I don't like them because they don't use the same type of music that we use. I don't like them because they're from the mountains. They're from Appalachia. Hillbillies. I don't like them because they're from the South. I went off to college and I saw people from New York at my college putting sugar on grits. I said, man, you're messing up the grits. He said, man, where I come from, we put sugar on the grits. I said, man, that's not what you do. But I had to get used to the Northerners putting sugar on the grits. Now that seemed like a small thing. But having been raised in the South, you know, it can lead to other things that can become problems. So we have to tolerate. We have to be tolerable of people who may not do things the way we do things. And Allah tests us That's his sunnah. If you look in the Quran, the sunnah of Allah is to test a human being. The African American, the Native American, the Korean American, the Mexican American, these groups have been tested for white Americans. There have been groups who come from Europe that have been tested for the European, or we say white American. When the Irish came into Chicago, there was a time when half of Chicago was Irish. And they came and took all the jobs. These are now I'm looking through the eyes of the white American who was there when the Irish American came. They felt like the Irish American came in and took all the jobs. That's why I like to study history. I didn't know that half of Chicago was Irish. Same thing with New York, Boston, major cities. When the immigrants came in, I'm talking about in the 1800s now. I ain't talking about in the 60s. I'm talking about the 1800s. This is when the Irish came in on the ships. Polish. There were times when I went to work years ago, back in the 70s. They would tell Polish jokes, and it was accepted. They made the Polish people look dumb and stupid. That wasn't right, but it was accepted. You see? That was a test. It was a test on the people living in America. And it's a test going on right now. Allah is testing people. The COVID-19 is a test. And if we're not patient, we'll be like the people who have no patience, and they go to the restaurant and they don't have on a mask, and they don't want to do what people have asked them to do. So Allah says in the Quran, be sure that we shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss in goods, lives, and the fruits of your toil. But give glad tidings to those who are patient in adversity. See, we're supposed to be patient. The best place for you to be is at home. Even if the virus was not here, even if COVID was not here, the best place for you to be is at home. Unless you're doing something to advance your family, you're working and so forth. Just to be out in the way of other people, just to be out there, we put ourselves at risk. They asked me about the African American boys roving around Friday night away from home. They asked me, what can we do? I said, go home. They asked me when I was teaching school, they asked me, what should we do? We want to go out. I said, you need to go home. Find something good at home that you can do. that's interesting. You want to drink liquor? Drink liquor at home. Why you got to be out all over the place, out there speeding, doing silly things when you could be home? Go home. I told them, I was very blunt with them. You don't seem to be too, I said, listen, you need to go home. I hope you see the spirit of what I'm trying to deliver. I hope you see the spirit of it. Allah tests our patience with a pandemic. Can you go home? If you can, thank Allah for that. Everything you need should be home. So sabr, and this is one of the attributes of Allah. Sabr, the patient. Allah is the patient. And we have to learn how to be patient. Some of us are a test for others. We have to be tolerant and patient. And we have to study. But Imam, do you trust the doctors in the hospital? No, I don't trust all of them. I have to be selective in who I trust. America is so commercial. Yes, many of them just want your money. You go to the hospital and they give you 20 tests, and each test costs $1,000. And I'm not exaggerating. So we will be tested for our whole life. Some human beings will pass the test consistently, and some will fail consistently. Some of them are headed to the grave. Some of them. Let us ask Allah for guidance. Allah gives guidance. As we wind it down now, I reiterate, cultivate your patience. Cultivate your patience. You know, when we call the adhan, we say, Hayya al-salah, Hayya al-salah. We say, Hayya al-falah, Hayya al-falah. Now you can translate that in a couple of different ways. I've read some translations say, hurry to prayer. I've read some translations say, come lively to prayer. Hayya al-salah. I've read some translations that it says hayya al-falah. It says hurry to success. I've read some others that says come lively to cultivation. Because if you cultivate properly, you will have success. Come lively to cultivation. We should all be cultivating ourselves. Cultivating, to be more specific, we should all be cultivating our souls. Cultivating our souls. How do we cultivate our souls? We read Quran. We read the Hadith. We look at the lives of those who Allah has put among us who have been excellent Muslims. That's how we cultivate our souls. That's what we do. That's our purpose. To cultivate and refine and go as high as we can go. That's our cultivation. And along with that, I go back to what we say about patience. Patience, observation, and patience. I don't believe it takes a long time to give a decent khutbah in today's world. I do believe in ta'lim. You have the same Quran I have. The only thing I would suggest that you have is a concordance for when you study Quran. What is the concordance? If you take the word love, the concordance will show you every location in the Quran where the word love is located. Don't you see how important that is for study? Don't you see how important that can be for cultivation of the soul? Yes. Cultivation. That's what it's about. Why would Allah say cultivate? Hayya al-falah. Cultivate. When I'm teaching the children, I use the example of a farmer. A farmer, he can't let the weeds grow all up through his corn. You got to pull the weeds out. That's cultivation. You got to pull them out. You got to water it. Not too much water, not too little. He got to measure. And once he uses his experiences and what he's learned in school, in agricultural school, once he uses what he's learned, he comes out with a beautiful crop. That's the same thing with your soul. That's why Allah gave it to us that way. That's the same thing with your soul. Some people neglect their souls. Even the Muslims, they neglect their souls. And we should cultivate it every single day. Every single day we should cultivate it. We go and pick out the things that we use, the things that we can use to cultivate it. We go and pick them out. It may be a particular hadith that you like. It may be a particular part of the Quran that you like. It may be a person that you like. It might be the imam of the mosque where you go. You like the way he says or does certain things from the Quran. That's a cultivation of your soul. That's enough. Okay. I always pray to Allah that what we say here will be of use for our community. I pray to Allah that we will be able to use it and be successful at cultivating our souls. Because if we do that, everything else will fall in place. Okay? Let me say this as an announcement. We're going into a serious time. We're going into the winter of the year. We're going into a time when people become ill very easily. Because of the flu season and because of the Christian holiday season, people will be mingling and going to and fro homes and traveling and so forth. We're entering into a very dangerous time right now. The Centers for Disease Control has asked people not to travel and even to cancel Thanksgiving. Because some people, when they have Thanksgiving, it's like a family reunion. You have 40 or 50 or 100 people might be at the house. And if Houston, Texas come in, they bring in germs from Houston, Texas. If California comes in, they bring in germs from California. That's why the prophet said, don't travel during a pandemic. That's from Prophet Muhammad. You shouldn't be traveling. Stay home if you can. Some people, you can't help it. But everything is based on business. The airlines are on, they want you to travel. Everything's based on business. But your life is also at risk. The Centers for Disease Control has asked people not to travel. Viruses are spread through the air and on surfaces. We must exhibit responsible leadership at this masjid. Believers will receive notice whether there will be a second shutdown of this masjid. We don't want to do that. But we have to take into account we've never been here before. We've never been in this position before. And now we're going into the winter time of the year when germs are just everywhere. You know, you catch a cold and don't even know how you caught the cold. So we got to talk. We got to consult. And we want to do the best thing. So I'm letting the masjid know. I will be calling you and talking with you. This group is great. I never thought it would be a time when I didn't want to see a crowd at the masjid. That time has come. I don't want to see 30 or 40 people in here. We ain't big enough. We just not big enough for what we got in here now. We got 11 people here, including myself, at this time. 11 people. You see? So I'm letting you know. I don't want this to be a dictatorship. I don't want to make the decision by myself. Maybe we can keep going. But I do want to consult. Because see, it's not just us by ourselves. You got to go back out in the community. You got to go home. You got to go back out in the community. You got to stop for some gas. You got to stop for whatever. You're going to be interchanging with people. You see? And we want to do the right thing. But I tell you this. I want to see Jumu'ah continue. But I will be watching the news. I'll be talking with people. I'll be talking to you. I'll be watching the news. I'll be saying, if it gets too rough, we're going to have to close it. And I'm letting you know now, okay? So we may or may not, but I'm letting you know now. Okay. We have risen with the pristine way of Al-Islam, with the testimony of sincerity as a member of the nation of our forefather Abraham, the pure Muslim who was not among the polytheists, who turned toward the Lord, our Lord Allah, following the religion of Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessing be upon him. O Allah, we take refuge in you from sloth, decrepitude, the troubles of old age, the temptation of this world, and the punishment of the hereafter. We and all the creation have reached the morning belonging to Allah, Lord of all the systems of knowledge. O Allah, we ask from you the goodness of this day, the triumph, support, light, grace, and the guidance therein. And we seek refuge in you from the evil of this day and the evil of the days thereafter. There is no God but Allah, and Allah is the greatest. There is no God but Allah who is alone. There is no God but Allah without associate. There is no God but Allah. His is the dominion of all praise due to him. There is no God but Allah, and there is no strength or power except in Allah. Ameen. Iqamatis salat.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.